The crying echoed through the crystalline halls of the Zalith Hive Palace, vibrating through walls grown rather than built. It was not the cry of hunger or discomfort alone. It was a psychic wail, a sound that clawed at the minds of everyone who heard it. Servants collapsed, guards clutched their heads, and even hardened diplomats from a dozen species staggered as the sound rolled through the chamber like a storm. At the center of it all stood Queen Valith, ruler of the Zalith Dominion. Her iridescent armor plates flared in distress. She was tall, insectoid yet regal, her multifaceted eyes glowing with panic as she cradled her newborn daughter. The infant's tiny claws flexed, her bioluminescent markings flashing erratically as her cries intensified. Nothing worked. The royal nurturers had tried pheromone songs, harmonic resonance fields, ancient lullabies encoded into the hive's very architecture. The priest-scientists attempted neural calming rituals passed down for thousands of cycles. Medical drones hovered uselessly, their diagnostics scrolling endless lines of error. The baby would not stop crying. And with every passing moment, the psychic feedback grew stronger. The hive's defensive systems began to respond to the perceived threat, power levels rising across the palace. If the infant's distress continued, the automated defenses would escalate into a full lockdown, possibly worse. Queen Valith's mandibles trembled. "She has never known fear," she whispered, her voice transmitted through a translator node. "Why does she suffer?" No one answered. No one could. Except, perhaps, the human. Elias Mercer did not belong in a royal birthing chamber. He knew that very well as he stood awkwardly near the wall, clutching a datapad and trying not to look terrified. He was a systems engineer, seconded from the Terran Coalition to help stabilize the Zalith Hive's aging power lattice. He was supposed to be in a reactor sublevel, recalibrating conduits, not standing 10 meters from the most powerful alien queen in known space, while her baby screamed like the universe was ending. Elias felt the psychic pressure too, though not as intensely as the Zalith. Humans, it turned out, were oddly resistant to psionic overload. The scientists had theories: neural noise, emotional compartmentalization, evolutionary accident, but Elias just knew his head hurt a little and his ears rang. He watched the queen pace, her shadow stretching across the glowing floor. "This is bad," muttered Ambassador Kelt of the Voruan, slithering nervously beside him. "If the royal infant cannot be calmed, the hive mind may interpret it as an existential threat." Elias swallowed. "What happens then?" Kelt flicked his tongue. "The Zalith have ended wars over less." The baby wailed again, a piercing surge that sent another wave of pain through the room. A priest collapsed outright. Elias winced and then noticed something strange. The child's bioluminescent patterns weren't random. They pulsed, flickered, then spiked sharply every time the psychic feedback intensified. The baby wasn't just crying, she was reacting. Elias said before he could stop himself. "Has anyone checked the environmental systems?" Several alien heads turned toward him. The queen's gaze locked onto his. "What do you mean, human?" Valith demanded. Elias gestured vaguely with his datapad. "I mean newborns, right? They're sensitive. Back home, human babies can freak out if the lights are too bright, or if there's too much noise, or even if something's just off." The chamber fell silent except for the infant's cries. "Our environment is perfectly tuned," one of the priest scientists snapped. "This chamber has birthed queens for millennia." Elias hesitated, then took a step forward. Respectfully, millennia-old systems tend to drift. Sensors go out of calibration. Feedback loops form. I fix that kind of thing for a living. The queen studied him for a long, terrifying moment. "Speak," she said at last. Elias exhaled. "Okay. The hive palace runs on layered psionic resonance fields, right? They stabilize the queen and sync her with the hive mind. But this baby, she's not fully integrated yet. What if the resonance is overwhelming her? A murmur rippled through the chamber. That is possible, admitted a medical drone, its voice flat. The infant's neural lattice is still forming. Then, Elias continued, growing more confident. Every calming attempt might actually be making it worse. Like blasting music at someone who already has a migraine. The baby cried louder, as if agreeing. Queen Vailitha's grip tightened. What do you propose, human engineer? Elias swallowed hard. We turn it down. Not off, just lower the psionic field strength. And maybe dim the lights. Give her space. Silence. That would weaken the queen's connection to the hive, one priest hissed. Unacceptable. Temporarily. Elias shot back. And you're already on the edge of a palace-wide meltdown. The queen looked down at her daughter, then back at Elias. Do it, she said. The priests protested, but the order was absolute. Elias worked fast, fingers flying over the control interface as he accessed systems no human had ever touched before. He adjusted resonance harmonics, dampened feedback loops, rerouted excess energy into grounding matrices. The chamber lights softened from blinding brilliance to a warm, gentle glow. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the baby's cries faltered. They softened, dropping from a psychic scream to a confused whimper. The bioluminescent pattern slowed, pulsing in calmer, steadier rhythms. The chamber exhaled as one. Queen Vailith froze, hardly daring to move. She is quieter. Elias leaned closer, ignoring the glares from the priests. May I? He asked softly, gesturing toward the infant. The queen hesitated. Letting a non-Zalith touch the royal heir was unthinkable. But the baby whimpered again, and Vailitha's resolve cracked. Carefully, she said. Elias approached, heart pounding. Up close, the infant was beautiful. Alien, yes, with tiny chitin plates and softly glowing eyes, but unmistakably a baby. Small. Fragile. He remembered his niece back on Earth, how she'd calm when held just right. Slowly, gently, Elias extended a finger, not touching, just hovering near the baby's claw. The infant stilled. Elias adjusted his posture, instinctively lowering his voice. Hey there, he murmured, unsure if the translator even picked it up. It's okay. You're safe. Something extraordinary happened. The baby reached out and wrapped her tiny claw around his finger. A ripple of psychic energy passed through the chamber. Not a scream, but a gentle wave. Warm. Curious. The baby stopped crying. For the first time since her birth, there was silence. Then, softly she chirped. Queen Vailitha's eyes widened. She has never been silent before. Elias didn't move. He barely breathed. She's probably just overstimulated. New world, new sensations. Happens to human babies all the time. The queen lowered herself, towering form folding until she was level with him. You calmed her. Without rituals. Without dominance. Elias shrugged weakly. I just treated her like a baby. The palace did not explode. Instead, it changed. Word spread quickly through the hive and beyond. The human engineer who calmed the Zalith royal infant when no one else could. Scientists descended on the chamber, scanning, recording, theorizing. The priests were forced to admit their methods were flawed, at least where newborns were concerned. Elias spent the next several days advising the medical cast, helping them redesign the birthing chambers with adjustable resonance fields and adaptive environments. Human childcare data was uploaded into the hive archives, translated and analyzed at unprecedented speed. And the baby, Princess Salith, thrived. She slept peacefully when the lights were dim. She chirped happily when Elias spoke near her. She even laughed, a strange, clicking sound, when he gently rocked her cradle, a motion no Zalith had ever thought to try. Queen Valith watched it all with awe. "You humans are strange," she said one evening as Elias adjusted a control panel. "You lack claws, armor, natural weapons. Yet my daughter responds to you as if you are hivekin." Elias smiled. "We're good at taking care of things that can't take care of themselves. It's kind of our thing." The Queen considered that. The galaxy knows humans as engineers, soldiers, survivors. But this, she gestured to her peacefully sleeping child. This is a different strength. Elias felt a flush of pride. "Yeah, HFY, I guess." She tilted her head. "HFY. Humanity." He paused, then smiled wider. "Heck yeah." Years later, historians would mark that moment as the true beginning of the Terran-Zalith alliance. Not the treaties, not the trade routes, not the shared military campaigns, but the day a human engineer listened when an alien baby cried and understood what no one else could. Princess Salith would grow to become one of the most powerful queens in Zalith history, her rule defined by empathy as much as strength. She would speak often of the quiet human who taught her that the universe did not need to be loud to be safe. And Elias Mercer? He went back to fixing reactors and stabilizing starships. But every year, without fail, a message arrived from the Hive Palace, accompanied by a soft, familiar chirping sound. A reminder that sometimes the greatest human triumph is not domination or conquest, but knowing how to hold the universe gently until it stops crying. The final time Elias Mercer stood in the Hive Palace, the walls no longer hummed with tension. They resonated with calm purpose, their living crystal surfaces glowing in slow, steady rhythms tuned for a growing child rather than an ancient war queen. Princess Salith sat in her cradle, larger now, her eyes brighter, her thoughts no longer uncontrolled bursts, but curious ripples reaching outward. She did not cry when Elias approached. Instead, she leaned forward, tiny claws resting against the air as if she already knew who he was. Queen Valith watched from behind, her posture no longer rigid with fear. "She recognizes you," the Queen said softly. "Even now." Elias smiled, crouching beside the cradle. "Guess we met at a pretty intense moment." Salith emitted a gentle churring sound. Contentment, the Hive translators confirmed. The resonance fields adjusted automatically, responding to her emotional state. What had once taken priests, machines, and ritual now happened naturally. "She will never forget the one who brought her peace," Valith said. "Nor will the Hive." The Queen stepped forward and lowered her head, an act that sent a quiet shock through every attendant present. "Human Elias Mercer," she declared, "you are named caretaker that listened. Your name will be etched into our lineage records, not as a warrior, but as a protector of beginnings." Elias didn't know how to respond. He wasn't a hero. He hadn't fired a weapon or saved a fleet. He just noticed a problem and treated it like a human would. "I just didn't want her to be scared," he said. Valith's eyes softened. "That is why your species is dangerous in ways the galaxy did not understand." When Elias finally departed the Hive Palace, there were no guards watching him leave, only open doors. The Dominion's defenses powered down behind him, not in weakness, but in trust. Years later, when Princess Salith ascended the throne, her first decree was simple and unprecedented. All first contact protocols shall include human emotional engineers. The galaxy laughed at first. Then wars ended sooner. Negotiations failed less often. Entire civilizations learned that strength did not always roar. It sometimes whispered, listened, and held steady. And across the stars, among legends of human soldiers and unstoppable fleets, one quieter story endured. That when the most feared queen in the galaxy could not soothe her child, a human didn't command, didn't dominate, didn't fight. He listened.